Hegemonic masculinity refers to a group of men who embody the most currently honoured way of being a man. Informed by Western Marxism, Connell argues that multiple masculinities exist and the relationship between them are unequal. This is because it is possible to identify a hegemonic masculinity that subordinates all other masculine types in any social or historical context. Examining how hegemonic masculinity is culturally produced and institutionally sustained within Australian social settings, Hutchin and Marcosa found that physical violence and domination are historically naturalised ways of performing hegemonic masculinity in the NRL. Similarly, Lipens found that in the agricultural setting, hegemonic masculinity is equated with workers who are strong, aggressive, and can battle the odds, whilst Lucas found that Australian cinema privileges determination, physical strength, egalitarianism, and the ability to challenge one's father as dominantly masculine. Because these sociologists have failed to identify a link between hegemonic masculinity and nationhood, Amanzi, Hannah, and Mary are applying for research funds to examine if hegemonic masculinity informs perceptions of Australianness.
Amanzi, how do you intend to conduct this research, and do you think that there are any limitations with your chosen methodology?
So our study is going to be split into two parts, blending positivist and interpretive methodologies. So to conduct quantitative data, the first part of our study will be an online survey in which university students will view 16 images and be asked to rate on a scale of 1 to 7 on how Australian the people depicted in the images look. So to adequately answer our research question, we've ensured that 8 images represent hegemonic masculinities, while the other 8 will represent subordinate masculinities. So the point of this survey is to identify if people perceive hegemonic masculinity to be essentially the same representation of what it looks to be like a real Australian man. And we expect to find that this is the case, indicated by a parallel between hegemonic masculinity and nationhood. So although this quantitative data does not reveal information of why people rated in each image as more or less Australian, part 2 of our study will make up for this limitation, which I'll let Hannah explain.
So for part 2 of our study, we are investigating the motives behind social action. By this we mean to examine where each student rated the images as more or less Australian. To do this, students will be represented with all 16 images and the ratings they gave them. In a discussion box under each image, they'll be asked to type a short response justifying their rating. We expect to find that justifications of images rated as more Australian will reflect descriptions of hegemonic masculinity, such as the individual in the picture looked physically strong. Now, qualitative data can be limited because participants may not feel comfortable giving honest justifications in front of researchers for fear of identification. For this reason, the study will be conducted online and students will remain anonymous.
If DESIE fund our research, we intend to verify that hegemonic masculinity informs perceptions of Australianness. This means subordinated masculinities are excluded because of their gender and because this undermines the extent to which they are perceived as Australian. Our research will thereby encourage sociologists to examine how these multiple forms of exclusion affect different masculinities and how we can disable this isolating gender order. We hope that this will work to improve the sense of gendered and cultural belonging felt by all Australian men.